This is Korea News for April 12, 2022. A CCTV video was released at the time related to the Incheon interfloor noise knife riot, which was controversial due to the poor response of the police officers. The video showed the police exiting the villa, the scene of the incident, and hesitating to enter the scene even with a taser gun and a tripod. On the morning of the 5th, victim A and his attorney Kim Min-ho held a press conference at the press center in Yonggu, Seoul, and announced the same. Former Inspector B and former police officer C left the scene without protecting the victim at the time of the knife riot that occurred at a villa in Namdong-gu, Incheon on November 15 last year, causing controversy. According to the video released on that day, at around 5:04 p.m. on the day of the incident, victim A and former Inspector B were outside the villa, but they heard screams and entered the building. At the time, A's wife's neck was stabbed with a knife. However, it was only Mr. A who headed to the third-floor house, the scene of the crime. Former police officer C, who was originally on the third floor, came down to the first floor pretending to put a knife in his neck, and former Inspector B focused on talking with police officer C rather than running to the scene. In the video, the two police officers exited the building side by side. Lawyer Kim emphasized, even though it was an urgent moment at the time, Inspector B only checked the safety of police C and did not confirm the safety of the victim, he said. Then, at 5:06 p.m., the two police officers came out with a taser gun and a tripod. The victim pointed out that although the police had sufficient means to subdue the perpetrator, they did not take appropriate action. Lawyer Kim criticized, saying, "It seems that the police were afraid of screams and that they were afraid to immediately subdue the swordsman." According to the victim's side, the problem continued even when the two police officers who came out of the villa entered the building again. After being caught going up from the first floor to the third floor, they arrived at the scene on the third floor about 4 minutes later and arrested the criminal. The victim points out why it took 4 minutes to achieve a distance that could be achieved in 15 seconds. The victim also raised suspicions that the police officer destroyed the evidence. Regarding the 4-minute gap, victim A speculated, two police officers came back to the building, but they were screaming and stabbing, so they waited in the middle of the second and third floors, and they all came up quietly. The police were unable to quickly secure this body cam during the inspection stage, he said. Former police officer C, who was at the scene at the time, was known to be wearing a body cam. Lawyer Kim said, "It destroys evidence. After re-entering the building, please tell me whether you went straight to the third floor, or what other space you were waiting in, as estimated." On the other hand, the police explained, the storage space was full, so the recording could not be done, and there was no fact that it was deleted. Incheon Non-hyeon Police Station said in a statement on the same day, as a result of the body cam digital forensics, it was confirmed that the situation at the time was not recorded. "It has not been deleted since it was not filmed because the capacity was already full," he said. Meanwhile, the victim's side asked the police authorities and the government related to the incident to come up with an alternative. Person A said, "It is absolutely necessary to come up with a way to prevent such incompetent police from entering the police organization again." At that time, her wife, who was stabbed with a knife and collapsed from a cerebral infarction, is said to be still in an unhealed state. Person A cried, saying, "The reality of having to borrow money to take care of patients and to worry about the cost of living." Earlier, the police held a disciplinary committee and dismissed each of the two officers. They are dissatisfied with the recent dismissal and have filed an appeal. Earlier, on November 15, last year, on the third floor of a villa in Namdong-gu, Incheon, Mr. D was arrested and charged with attempting to kill Mr. B and his daughter in their 20s by wielding a weapon. D, who lives on the fourth floor, has been in conflict with the family of a downstairs due to noise between floors. In relation to the Incheon interfloor noise knife riot, which was controversial due to the poor response of the police officers, the victim's family filed a claim for damages of about 1.8 billion won against the state. According to the Incheon District Court on the 3rd, a woman in her 40s who was a victim of the Incheon interfloor noise knife riot, and her family, the state should compensate 18,365,8831 for damages resulting from the poor response of the police officers who were dispatched to the scene at the time. On the 31st of last month, he filed a claim for damages. The police officers who were dispatched at the time were not identified as the accused. Lawyer Kim Min-ho, a litigation agent, said in a statement, "If the perpetrators are included as defendants, there is a possibility that the mediation will break down." He added, "A claim for damages against the perpetrators can be made within the 3-year statute of limitations." The lawsuit for damages filed by Mr. A and others was assigned to the Civil Division 13 of the Incheon District Court, and the first hearing date has not yet been set. This case is an incident where two police officers who were dispatched to the scene when a knife riot occurred in a villa in Namdong-gu, Incheon on November 15 last year due to a noise conflict between floors, even though they knew that the suspect was wielding a weapon, they left the scene. At that time, Mr. A was stabbed in the neck with a knife wielded by Mr. B, a resident on the 4th floor, and was seriously injured. Mr. A's husband, who heard a scream while outside the villa, hurriedly went up to the 3rd floor home and had a fight, eventually subduing her criminal. The police held a disciplinary committee at the end of last year and issued disciplinary measures for dismissal of 2 police officers on the spot. The first trial against Mr. B, who was arrested and charged with attempted murder, is scheduled to be held on the 11th at the Incheon District Court. Incorrect response to interfloor noise and knife riots. Resignation of Incheon Police Commissioner and future measures. The National Police Agency removed the position of the Incheon Non-Hyein Police Station Chief at 5 p.m. on the 21st of last month. In a public apology, Commissioner Kim Chong-ryong said, "I sincerely apologize to the victims, their families, and the public for failing to prevent crime damage through passive and insufficient on-site response." Said. It is expected that legal regulations will be prepared to relieve criminal responsibility when the police use unavoidable force in a dire situation. On the 25th, Rep. Park Won-soo of the National Assembly's Administrative Safety Committee announced that the partial amendment to Police Officer Duties Act, which contained such content, had passed the second subcommittee for bill review. Rep. Park serves as the second chairperson of the Bill Review Subcommittee. The second subcommittee of the ruling and opposition party Bill Review Committees announced their positions at the National Assembly this afternoon. The amendment includes a provision that allows police officers to reduce or exempt criminal responsibility when they are at fault in relation to a crime. The National Assembly Subcommittee stated, when a police officer performs his/her duties to prevent or suppress an imminent situation in which a crime is about to occur, or if the performance of his/her duty is unavoidable and the police officer is not intentionally or grossly negligent, he/she shall not be held criminally responsible for subsequent damage. It contains content that can be mitigated or exempted, he explained. He added, however, this regulation is only applied to the case of responding to crimes in order to protect the human rights of the people. In particular, the second lieutenant said, there have been many cases in which police officers have been passive in responding to incidents due to legal limitations, etc. In the case of the child abuse murder case in Yangcheon-gu, Seoul in October of last year, despite the multiple reports of suspected abuse, the police separated the victims due to legal limitations. In addition, in the past murder case of Wonchun and the destruction and murder of electronic anklets in Songpagu, Seoul, the police did not quickly approach the crime scene and did not prevent human casualties. The second lieutenant said, many people will be disappointed and worried about the police's passive response to the recent interfloor noise incident in Incheon. I look forward to it, he said. He also emphasized, even though public safety is the reason and ultimate goal of the police, I feel a strong sense of responsibility as the chief police officer for failing to properly protect the lives and safety of the people. The police formed a task force to strengthen the on-site responsibility in the wake of the recent poor response to interfloor noise in Incheon and the death of a woman protecting herself in Seoul. The TF to strengthen on-site response capabilities plans to prepare comprehensive measures such as reorganizing the training system for local police and new police officers, strengthening the practicality of equipment and strengthening training for use, expanding the legal and institutional base, and improving manuals. It is fair enough to ask for responsibility for the accident. However, before that, it is necessary to reflect on whether police officers with sufficient authority to physically prevent accidents have been given, and those who challenge public authority must be able to actively exert physical pressure to prevent them from challenging public authority again. I believe that sufficient powers should be given to police officers. Thank you for watching today. Please like and subscribe.